My name is Marcus Kirsch and I'm the founder of The Wicked Company. I help organizations become more resilient and help them with their innovation and transformation efforts. For over 20 years, I worked across many industries, from advertising to automotive and banking, for clients like HSBC, BT, P&G, the Natural History and the Science Museum, and many others in many other industries. What I've found there is that there was a big focus on technology, and it is something that we need to shift away from in order to become better problem solvers. The solutions will not lie with the technologies, but in the way we use them. And today I want to talk to you about wicked problems, wicked companies, and what that means to you. Let's start with you. Why should you care about this? Well, you might have just tried to implement Agile and it does not bring you the benefits you thought it would bring your organization. Maybe you're a leader and you want to become more future-proof and want to understand what Agile, lean, design thinking, all of those things mean to your company. Maybe you looked at it, had some training, but are struggling to measure the real benefits. Maybe you're missing what you're measuring. Maybe you're still considering an investment in all of this. Or maybe even you might be one of the 70% of companies that have tried change or transformation programs, but that the big consultancies have failed. McKinsey shows that over 70% of transformation and change efforts are not working. And one of the reasons for that is that digital transformation and technology alone will not bring the benefits. Maybe you're a company or a CIO or a leader or a team that can already see that digital transformation itself only fixes old things and doesn't create new benefits and value. Maybe you're struggling with the difference between effectiveness and efficiency. If any of these things apply to you, or even hiring the right talent, or finding the right partner, or not knowing where to start, or needing help to define what the actual problem is, this conversation might be for you. So let's look at what these wicked problems and wicked companies are. So change has always been hard. That's nothing new here. Transformation. One of the biggest challenges in an individual's or an organization's life is to change and keep changing. Sometimes at a higher pace, sometimes at a slower pace. But as we all know, the market is changing. Even if we are pretending it might not be so, it always does. And over particularly the last 20 years, it has changed more rapidly and more often. Unfortunately for a lot of organizations, it has shown that technology is not a silver bullet, is not a value delivery system, because it is only an enabler. One of the key principles to understand is that technology is and has always only been a garbage in, garbage out system. What do I mean by that? Garbage in, garbage out, for those who don't know the terminology, means that, let's say you're having a database. That's a piece of technology. If the data that goes into the database is bad, then whatever comes out of the database often is bad too, because you're working with bad data. If it's good data, you're in luck. You might get good things out of the database. But the database itself is neutral. It can be used either way, in a good or in a bad way, which means technology won't make the difference. This is also true for things like blockchain, social media, and so on. It's even true for a hammer. You can build a house with a hammer, or you can hurt someone with a hammer. It's really up to you. The question has never been, what tools do I have? But how do I use them? And this is getting us closer to what wicked problems are, because they're more concerned with the why. Furthermore, through our network technologies, our existing human behavior has been sped up or amended in a way that now individuals can more easily connect with millions of people. This has created a very different dynamic, not just faster, but more complex. And if you look at problems like that, when a human behavior is not just exposed to, let's say, a little village of 20 people, they'll know all their lives and nothing ever changes, but actually to 1 million people, and they get knowledge and information from those many more people and are exposed to that and can react to it, you're in an environment that keeps evolving much faster. That might ring a bell yet. These problems are different problems. The systems are more complex, they're interconnected, and they keep evolving much faster. You might have heard of the adoption rates of radio, then TV, and then the internet accelerating, because those things behave like systems. They behave exponentially. So when people talk about exponential organizations and systems, this is what they mean. It happens faster. It's not linear. It's an exponential growth, potentially. And this leads to a way higher complexity and a very different and often unpredictable impact. And this is where we get into the difference between tame and wicked problems. Tame problems are things like mass production, building a bridge, building even an airplane. An airplane in particular is a very, very complex project, but it's not a wicked problem. It has different characteristics. So a tame problem can still be complex. It can have a lot of moving parts. The main characteristics are that tame problems stay the same. The mass production doesn't change. You have one product, you replicate. You don't have to change it. You will still replicate. The outcome will still be the same. You'll get another copy of the same product, object, artifact. Building a bridge and building an airplane is the same thing. The environment and context will not change. The bridge goes from one part to another. The airplane needs to be able to fly. Those rules don't change. And the way people use them won't change. That's why those are called tame problems. And the Industrial Revolution and mass production is known as being a tame problem. In a tame problem, you can have the time to gather enough information to understand it enough so that you come up with one solution once and it will become a recipe, and you can replicate this recipe, and it will always work and it will always create the same outcome, because the problem itself doesn't change. So you have the time to explore it enough, improve it enough, be efficient about it, and will get the result. Now, a wicked problem is inherently different. A wicked problem, classically, examples were crime, poverty, pandemics like COVID-19 is a wicked problem. Why is that? Because those problems evolve. Crime doesn't stop. Epidemics don't stop. They shift and evolve whenever they hit something. The other part is also that when you deploy a solution, your solution will change the problem. It will not fully solve it. So we're leaving a space of a problem and solved to a problem slightly improved. We'll never fully solve it, and we have to really, really accept that when we're faced with a wicked problem. Now, technology has created, in my opinion, more wicked problems. Why is that? Well, because the way we interconnect and we keep moving around, just give you the example of social media. You put a message out and it will evolve. Since the beginning of Facebook, now we have politics and other players and stakeholders taking part in this big game on these platforms, and they inherently are shifting conversation. The conversation has evolved. What the platform has been used for has evolved to the point where even Mark Zuckerberg can't tackle it anymore, because he still, in my opinion, has a tame problem approach to it. He's not a genius. He's a coder who got lucky and a lot of help and a lot of money. But Facebook as an organization is a tame organization. So they will not be able to solve this problem they're having at the moment that became a wicked problem for them. And this is what is relevant for a lot of organizations. If you have a wicked problem, you have something that keeps evolving, and if it keeps evolving, how to gather enough knowledge to find a solution? Well, you can't. So what do you do instead? If it is such a complex problem that keeps changing even when you deploy a solution, you probably need more than one view on this in order to get a bigger view around it, or be able to explore it as much as you can, to learn as much as you can about it in order to de-risk your efforts in trying to solve it. To give you a really tangible example of what a wicked problem for an organization, in this case a financial institution, would be, saving money is one. If you're a bank or building society and you want to help people to save money to put on the savings account, or you want to have them save money for a mortgage, you're actually not just giving them products. You're in the business of helping them save money into potentially either afford a holiday or afford a house. Now, saving money is a wicked problem. Why? Well, because it's very complex. How do you help people to know that they can save? When they save, what are their situations? The context will vary massively. When they start saving, they will learn. They will start apply different tactics and strategies to further save. And once they saved a little bit, they have more options, and it evolves. So therefore, as an organization who has products and services around savings or mortgages or affording holidays or any bigger assets, you might want to help them with that. And that means you're not in a tame problem space anymore. You're in a wicked problem space. And I believe most companies and organizations would get a really much clearer direction and clearer idea on how to invest and where to go and how their future vision looks like if they go and identify the wicked problem they're dealing with. And this gets me through what I'd like to describe as the 3 pillars of what organizations should look at in order to become a wicked company. So let's have a look at that. So here is leadership. As an organization, you need a direction. Leadership sets the direction of an organization. Now, if you want to become a wicked company, you have to look at the wicked problem that you're trying to solve. This is not just a challenge when you're dealing with a wicked problem. Even if you want to stay a tame company, you might want to have a future vision of where your company will sit in this wicked problem world that we're having more and more of. In order to do so, you need to somewhat identify the problem you're dealing with and be able to communicate it across your organization. But that's not the only thing. We have seen, and I've read this in many business books, and there's a lot of articles and studies about this, that given that our world is more complex, it is less and less the role of leadership to tell the organization what solutions to look at. Leadership is made of individuals like you and me. And we're all biased, and we don't have all the knowledge. So it is getting harder and harder for leaders to know what solutions we should be looking at. And this is one of the major shifts. If you're dealing with a wicked problem, the main principle is to treat everything as an assumption. That means you treat the problem as an assumption, you treat the hypotheses as the hypotheses and insights, and you check them, you try to learn. And leadership can only do so much to do that. Previously, leadership would have had to figure this out, but not anymore. It's just not doable anymore. It's too high a risk. Leadership would spend too much time on it. There's not enough people and hours to tackle this in a sensible way. What do you do instead? You need to enable your teams, your people. They need to be able to investigate the problem, challenge the problem, build hypotheses, test, research, experiment. They need to be able to be enabled to make decisions on the smaller pieces, and they need to be enabled to feed back to you and say, hey, That problem you think it is, that thing, the way you describe it, it's not quite it. We found this, we found that. I think we need to adjust it. In my experience in most projects I've ever seen, most of the focus is in efficiency. No surprise. Ever since mass production and industrial revolution, and ever since very successful new processes like Six Sigma and so on, efficiency has become a thing of increased revenue, increased growth, and so on. So since the 90s, it's been quite valuable for companies to just focus on efficiency. Now, the problem is with wicked problems that they evolve differently, and therefore efficiency has become actually a bad investment. So if you spend 6 months on polishing something that already exists, the customer already knows, doesn't really look like a major improvement, what do you think the value of this is? If you're looking at a new thing you can add to it, let's say we're still playing in the area of upselling, the customer will look at that and go like, oh, that solves my problem better, not faster, but actually solves a different part of my problem. That's what I'm gonna do. And the fact is, given the change and transformation of companies like Airbnb or like Uber, who's been trying anything from selling ice cream to delivering drugs and Medicare to people through the cars, they're already working on that next thing. They're not polishing what they have. They actually go into new areas. Because wicked problems are so vast that looking at new areas is more productive and more valuable than polishing the old stuff that has become commodities anyway. So what we see in this slide is that over the last 2 decades alone, we have a increase in revenue or margin based on a evolution from just selling commodities, in this case we talk about coffee here, to turning it into a product, to turning it into a very transactional service, to turning it into an experience that is more emotional and even of higher value to customers, to eventually, in my opinion, turn it even more into further solving a problem. And it's often a wicked problem. So if I maybe show you another slide as a comparison, when we look at financial institutions, or in this case it's a building society and Moneybox being a financial service, they should be sitting in the same space, but they're not. Nationwide is trying to help people save money, but not much, because they're just giving people products like savings accounts, current accounts and mortgages. They're given the products, a bit of extra help, but not really much going into solving the wicked problem of saving money. Now Moneybox is one of the few companies that really sits in that. Moneybox has identified the wicked problem of helping people save money. And you're using ISAs and savings accounts and things and pensions already as a commodity. This is not even the offer anymore. The offer is actually, I nudge you, I help your behavior to adjust so that you are actually able to save money where you weren't able before. And I'm very happy to pay them a lot of money to do that, because it will save me money that I wasn't even able to do before. It's an amazing service that sits in that problem-solving space. And the whole business is based around psychology, behavioral science to solve this wicked problem. So the third and last pillar is the one that you're most familiar with, and this is experimentation. So if you look at lean, agile, all these things that are processes that help you make things smaller, they're not there to do things faster or cheaper. They're actually there to de-risk things for you, which has a very, very different value. So whenever you go back and look into things like, and I'm including design thinking there, design thinking, agile, lean, any of those things, stop thinking about them as making the factory and your industrial process of production faster or cheaper. That is efficiency thinking. You want to think effective. Effective means that you should try 100 things, and you can break them all into small bits and pieces with the help of Agile and use Jira and do all these things. And in design thinking, you can do research and then ideate 100 ideas and quickly DVF, assess them with those models in order to prioritize them where you get the quickest value out of. So you go and test, you go experiment, you go and check back with reality every small bit rather than big chunks. That will minimize your risk of investment. It will make you move faster. And one of the big things it will do, and I nearly missed to mention that, is that helps you culturally to care less about the solution and care more about the problem and knowing as much about it as you can. As a last note, those things are not easy. There is no cookie cutter recipe here. It doesn't exist anymore. However, having worked in so many different industries, having seen so many different organizations, it's refreshing to see that the challenges are the same. They vary in every organization due to scale and culture, but there's a way to compensate for that. And I believe any organization can do this, because I've seen it happening by, let's say for BT, training developers in design skills, or having designers talk to business people and liaising between the new languages, introducing those new languages, a simplified way of communicating between leadership and the teams on the ground. Having teams connect to each other, help each other, grow communities, because in a way what you're doing when you do these kind of things, you're starting to create a new kind of movement, new mindset. And it's the toughest thing to do, but there's ways to do that in terms of communication, in terms of process, in terms of handholding, in terms of different workshops, in terms of learning on the job, so to speak, which I strongly believe in. I'm also a believer in design democracy. I think everyone can be a designer or use design tactics, practices, tools, and activities. And I'm very hopeful for this to work better than the 70% failure rate that we currently have. We can be better than this, and I know it can work. The other thing to say is it's not just me. I'm obviously would be very happy if you get in contact and talk to me a bit more about that and help me understand what your problems are, or where you think your problems are, or help you find what the problems around your organizations could be or actually are. So please get in contact. The other thing is, there is a book which is called The Wicked Company that I published last year, which is an introduction into wicked problems, showing where things come from in terms of Industrial Revolution and how things evolved, which should flesh out a little bit the story I've been trying to tell you in just 20 minutes here. And so have a look at the book, or get in contact with me for a copy. And I'm happy to talk to you about that. And if you buy it, please leave a review. I always need more of those. The other thing is, have a look and maybe subscribe to my podcast, which is called The Wicked Podcast, and I'm doing this with my partner Troy Norcross, who is an amazing smart man around blockchain and other technologies. And we look at a lot of different kind of business books that are all part of the puzzle of this wicked problem market, the wicked problem world. And so we talk to a lot of very interesting authors from business, from science, and they have very interesting viewpoints on some of the aspects I've been talking about, from constant learning to new management consulting to innovation and so on. There's something there for everyone, I'm sure. So go and check it out and subscribe and let me know what you think, or recommend the book we should take care of and talk to the author about. We also in the forward have a bit of a 5-minute in advance in the beginning of the podcast in every episode that is sort of a bit of a takeaway and a bit of a condensed version of what's in the book that might just have you spend 5 minutes on it, see if you like it, and then you can stay for the interview. So we're trying to save you money, because no one really has time to read all these books apart from seemingly us. So check it out. I'm sure you'll find all the links in the notes, and for now, thank you for your time, and I hope to talk to you soon.